Hope you enjoy this interview. Recorded at Kent's house in San Antonio, Texas in February.
Welcome, motocross fans. I'm Rick Humphreys, and I'm your host. And we'll be visiting with a rider who is famous for not only how many races he won, where he won them, but how he won them. Let me give you a little bit of resume on this rider. 15-year professional career, 32 AMA national wins, the 76 500cc national champion, the 77 motocross and trophy donations, second place overall in both events, team event, the 1979 and 1980 250cc AMA motocross champion, 1979 and 1980 Trans AMA champion, 1980 Pro Athlete of the Year, two-time FIM 250cc motocross winner, two-time AMA Superbikers champion, and a 2000 Hall of Fame inductee. As we approach the 50th anniversary of this rider's win, it only seemed appropriate to sit down and visit with Texas' favorite son, Kent Howerton. Kent, awesome to see you.
Thank you.
Great to see you again. And as you heard, that's a pretty lengthy resume. And
It's a lot of stuff to do in a short time.
it's a lot to do in a short time. Well, in 15 years, you were pretty darn busy. And I don't think a lot of people will remember, some riders that are our age, how well you guys did and how cutting edge you were in both technique, style, endurance, and just rider capabilities. I've done a little research on your background, on what your series races did, and there's a lot of questions. So let me dive right into it and jump in anytime if I'm wrong. The first points you scored in AMA competition was in June of 1973 at Cycle Trails Moto Park on a CZ. You went 14th in the 500cc class. Who sponsored you that time?
I can't remember for sure. I think it's Action Supply.
That was just your bike, okay. And how did it happen that you ended up riding in that event that day?
We're testing my memory.
I'm testing that memory, yeah.
I'm not really sure. Can't
Okay,
remember.
it's a damn long time ago, gotcha. And who was your main competition back then? Do you remember who you were battling with?
Everybody.
Everybody, I like it. Now, let's move on. Your first race on a Husky was in March of 74 at the Houston Supercross. Your first race on a Husky, you decided to do a Supercross. You were 6th that night. Then you went on the next 4 races on that Husky. You went 8, 4, 14, and 3 in the next 4 races. And then you had the third was a Daytona. What did Husky think? What was going on?
Well, I think they were watching me, but they weren't really telling me that much.
Yep. Now, what was the difference between the CZ and the Husky?
And quite a bit. The Husky was much more comfortable.
Much more comfortable?
The CZ seemed like it had too heavy a flywheel.
Right,
Motor revved up too slow.
right.
And it just didn't have the softness the Husky did.
Now, what did you think when you rode was that a pure stock bike then?
Yeah.
Or was it bone stock?
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you feel your performance was in your first Supercross to go 6th?
It wasn't too bad. I mean,
It wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, there had to be, with 30, 40 on the gate? They didn't do the 22 they do now.
No, I think they had Daytona was full 40.
Yeah.
And Daytona was 40, I think.
So they got this rookie on a Husky, and he gets 6th. You beat a lot of factory guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that had to be a really serious accomplishment.
Well, you're starting out and you don't know a whole lot. So you just drive the best you can and figured out later.
Do you recall what Husky said after the race was over about the future?
They didn't really talk to me that much.
They didn't.
Not till I started winning.
Who gave you the bike?
Let's see. Which class was it? 500?
Yeah. Well, it must have been the 250. Well, I didn't check that. They didn't indicate it. It must have been a 250.
I can't remember for sure.
Okay. Must have been a 250. Now, your first win on the Husky and your first win in AMA competition overall was at Motocross West, September of 74 on a 250 Husky. You beat Jimmy Ellis and Frank Stacy. You were first, they were second and third. How did that feel?
Was it the Trans, you say?
It was a 250. No, it was a 250cc national.
Oh, I can't remember that one.
Gotcha. No, that's understood. And now next up was the 75 250 series. Yeah. And for the first 5 races, you go 1, 8, 1, 5, 1. So in your first 250 series, full series, you ended up winning 3 of the races. And the last win was at Lake Whitney, almost home track. What were you? Can you recall what was going on then?
The first race was Hangtown, wasn't it?
First race was an 8?
Hangtown.
Hangtown. Your first win or your first race?
Well, it was my second win.
Okay, yes.
Because the first win, I believe, was in New Orleans, wasn't it?
Well, according to the AMA, your first win was at Motocross West. I don't know where that is because the names are gone.
Yeah.
You can't even look up Motocross.
One is a privateer.
You were a privateer?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then the next one I won was first race in Hangtown.
Hangtown, okay.
And that was a mud race.
Well, then we move on to the 75 AMA series. You went 5th overall in the 500s, and you went 2nd overall in the 250s. So you had a really good year that year. Were you riding in the 75 series? Were you on a GP bike, a GP frame bike, or on a regular setup rear suspension? You had to be on the GP frame bike, one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Were they excited now at your speed, Husky?
The only time I got excited was when I won the 250 sport class. And I've won quite a few races.
Right.
And they then after we won the series, everybody started talking to me. I felt loyal to Husky, didn't feel comfortable moving, and I just stayed there. And I probably should have gone to a Japanese company.
You should win it a little earlier, yeah. So did Husky ramp up their efforts to support you at all after that?
Not that you'd notice.
Not that you'd notice. Damn. And do you remember how much money you made that year?
$8,000.
Wow.
And they paid for my expenses.
$8,000.
Husky chainsaw for winning the championship.
Yep, I would imagine. Now, your first 500cc win was again at a track called Moto Masters after a battle with Hannah. And where Hannah went 2-1 for the win, you went 1-2. And that was probably the first time you really were going head-to-head with him. What was your feeling about Hannah at that time? Obviously, he was on a full-on factory Yamaha, and you.
The thing about Hannah, is if I got a better start than him, he'd always come and catch me. I hated that. That's when I just first started training. So I was getting tired. I didn't feel like training was working, so I didn't do it as hard as I should have done it. So I just kept having these dreams of nightmares, actually, of him passing me. Finally got to the point where he couldn't pass me. The stronger I got.
Now, you had a close overall season in that 500cc win in that year with Gary Semix.
Yeah.
He was on the Kawasaki, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
And was that bike much faster than the Husky?
Oh, yeah, I got a chance to ride that bike.
You did get a chance to ride
in
it?
Belgium. And I couldn't believe how much better it was. It's so light, so much power, just unbelievable. My Husky felt like an enduro bike, a good enduro.
Right. Is that the kind of thing that led you to develop the clutching technique out of the corners?
Yeah.
Is because everybody else was
Well,
faster?
actually, I had a cross-country trail boss. I went over this hump and did a burnout. I liked watching the roofs come off. So I just kept doing that. And what it taught me to do was to be in a taller gear and use the clutches to get the momentum up and feed it out.
Right.
Kind of like a top fuel car. And it worked good because Tony came up with me after practice and said, I know I'm faster in this corner. How do you do that? I told him he went out and tried it, burned all the clutch plates up.
You're making Eric pissed off at you, right?
That was Keith McCarty.
Oh, Keith McCarty was your mechanic?
No, because
Oh, okay.
Tony DeStefano was the one that was trying to copy what I told him. And he couldn't do it. He kept
Oh, I have read that story.
too much and burned the clutch up.
I heard that he came over and asked you, what did you tell Tony? Yeah, I remember that story. I remember reading that. Yes, that was fantastic. Now, we've all seen the photos of the Husky from about 75. This one.
76.
That's a 76. It looks like a 75 frame, but an early 76.
That's when I won the championship on.
That's what?
Won the championship on that bike.
Yes, absolutely. Right there. Now, Eric obviously modified the hell out of this thing.
Yeah.
Now, what did Husky think when they saw all the modifications?
Most of the modifications were on the 250, but that bike had plenty of stuff too. It had a profile swing arm, it had Fox shocks, it had some bunch of chain guides modifications, and they weren't real happy.
What kind of forks were they?
They were factory Husky forks.
Husky forks, okay. Okay.
So the factory things, there's not very much real factory stuff. It's mostly production stuff modified.
Right.
We take the hubs and machine them down to get the weight down. And Eric could port the cylinders.
Yep. Well, back then, it looks as though you guys were out of a box fan, so Husky must have been supporting you pretty good back then, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, next up, did you get a bonus when you won the 500cc race that year? Did they pay you bonuses?
Yeah.
Remember what you made in 75?
Same, $2,000, $3,000.
That was just enough to get you to the next race. All right, now, the big...
Then after that was, let's see, what was it? 20,000, 30,000, something like that.
Yeah,
So they went up a little bit.
yeah, a little bit. Now, are you on contract yet with them?
Yeah. When I did the first 250 race for them, National, the one I won at Hangtown, I was under contract.
How long was the contract for? 1 year,
I
2
think it was 1 year.
1 year? Do you remember what the contract paid?
Well, I think it was 15,000,
Big money.
but they had some bonuses if you did good.
That's fabulous. Okay. All right, now the 76 AMA series. You went fourth in the 250s, and you win the 500s. So you were busy. You were really busy. How was that season? You were on that bike.
Yeah, it's tough. Senex was a good rider, real consistent. And the one bad race I had was at Unadilla where the chain came off. That's the problem we had. Eric figured that out. Other than that, Gary was very competitive, but very good at not doing anything to disrupt your riding. You had to try to cut you off.
Right.
And came down the last race, and it was nerve-wracking. It was in New Orleans. The hotel air conditioner quit. I had to get Eric out and sleep in his room. He had to sleep in a hot room. And it's just, there's just a lot of tension. 3 points apart. So, it was tough. But after I won it, it was such a nice feeling. You don't really feel like coming back and winning another one.
Yeah. Do you still have your 76 championship trophy back there?
I have the number plate.
I did take a picture of those for the fans. I'll post that up
I
on
remember
it.
a trophy.
You don't know about the trophy?
Individual races. But I don't remember overall the trophy.
Gotcha. So let's move on to 77. 1977, you were winless. What happened?
A lot of bike problems. Heat treating. We were in the pits one time, and Eric had just got through tightening the flywheel, and you had to do that almost every moto. So we're sitting there in the chair relaxing, waiting for the practice to start, and we hear this kick, and we look at each other. What do you think that was? He gets a T-wrench out, undoes the cover, the flywheel with the crank falls off. We had heat treating problems with the axle nuts, they broke. Just all kinds of problems. The rod stretching, the bearings going out of them. Eric would have to take the rod bearing. We had one silver cage. We'd have to take the new bearings out of the copper cage one and put them in that silver cage every race.
Every race.
Yeah, keep it from seizing.
Wow. Now, what was Husky's attitude about that? Were they trying to fix it?
Yeah,
Were they?
basically, they kind of ignored us.
Now, because Heike was doing fabulous in Europe on that thing.
Yeah, when I went to the factory and looking at Heike's bike, he had some different stuff. He had some foot pegs that had holes in them with cleats on them.
Right.
And the stock pegs were slicker than crap. So Pyan was an engineer, and he said, "You like those pegs?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Be right back." He took them off to Heike's bike and gave it to me. Just something simple like that.
Oh. Now,
We asked for help the whole time, and it just kind of ignored us. That's why I decided to leave. I told him I was going to leave him early in '77.
so were you in your contract renewal season in '77? And where were you standing with them about, hey, I'm going
I
to...
think it must have been.
Okay.
I always wanted short contracts. In case I did good, I could ask for more money. I felt confident in myself.
Yep. Gotcha. All right. Okay. So now, was Suzuki knocking around, hanging out, talking to you at all?
Well, Suzuki worked out. They weren't really talking to me. It's Mark Blackwell.
Right.
Mark came down here to go ride with me in some trails and stuff. I had kind of a supercross track built in the trees. And he goes, "Man, anybody can ride like that needs a ride." So he got me to ride at Suzuki.
All right. So the '78 season, you're on a Suzuki, right?
Yeah.
And how did that come about?
I had a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
And bike was okay. Just mainly my problem.
Because in '78 it was something similar to this.
Yeah.
Twin shock, air cooled, drum brake.
Yeah.
Kind of confused still a little bit. They still can't figure out the suspension setup.
Well, I ran the double shock for halfway through the championship season.
Right.
And we're testing it at Mount Morris. There's a test bike. It didn't have all the trick metals on it. It's just a lot of steel. And we rode it on the track, and the two shocker would come around this bowl corner with a big rut in it and bottom out, hurt my back. And the single shock bike would go through there and didn't hurt my back. So I told him, I said, "I'm going to race this Sunday." They go, "You can't, it's a test bike." And I said, "No, I'm going to race it. It'll stay together." They said, "No, you have to call the factory." So they approved it. They didn't want to. I'm sitting on the starting line getting ready to go, and they got a blanket over it. They didn't remove the blanket till the car was getting ready to go. So I jump on it and take off.
Your bike is on the starting line and you have a blanket over it.
Yeah, it covered up the bike. It's a prototype.
That's insanity. Okay. '78 season. Now, do you remember what your contract was with them?
I think when I first signed it was $15,000.
Again, 15.
Yeah.
Box fan, mechanic. Who'd you get your mechanic? Arnett?
Well, I tried to get Eric to go, and they said, "We have our own mechanics." So I got Arnett. No, actually, I think I got Steve Bradshaw.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I can't remember. Then I got Arnett. And the first time that we went out was at Danny's place in Yucca Valley. And my bike just felt slow. And Eric was, no, it was, God dang. You just said it.
Arnett.
Arnett.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what happened was, we would check the transmission oil, there's no oil in it.
No oil in it.
No oil in it. So that made me a little leery of him.
Yeah.
But he gave me trust back.
Wow.
You guys had good mechanics.
Now, what did you think when you rode that Suzuki for the first time, even though it was the steel setup bike, it wasn't the lightest one?
Well, I knew it was better. The main it's not hurting my back.
Yeah.
And the bike was just a little more stable.
Had to be lighter.
No, it's heavy. It's a prototype.
I mean, lighter than the Husky, right?
I'm not sure.
Well, I got you. Okay.
Because everything was steel. All the cranks and everything was steel.
Right.
There's no sense in making it this light as a works bike.
No sense in it. Sure enough. And you guys didn't get to practice on your works bikes.
No.
No?
Not unless there's a person from Suzuki, like a mechanic or
Yeah.
engineer. Then let's take the bikes out.
Now, your first race on the Suzuki, you got a fourth at the Seattle Supercross.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that feel?
Felt good. I loved riding the bike.
And that was on a prototype, not a prototype, that was on a factory bike.
Yeah. The bike was just so light and so easy to ride.
I think I actually watched that race the other day, and it showed you coming from behind and passing everybody and winning. And the tracks looked a lot different, obviously, but it had to feel good. Was Suzuki pumped?
I think they're happy.
They had to be happy. Okay, then you went, after that, you went on a 14-race dry spell before you won Redbud in July of '78. 14 races without a win before that. How was that pressure?
Well, I was pressure put on myself.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't feel any pressure from the company.
None from the factory.
No, and they could have put pressure on me. I didn't care.
Now, in '78, had you been doing any testing on the full floater at that time?
I can't remember when all.
Because the full floater came out in '81 as a production bike.
We tested it in kind of secrecy
Yes.
because there was a lot of stuff going on. The lawyers going everywhere,
Yeah.
and so that was kind of a secret time.
Everybody's trying to figure out that single shock setup. And everybody had a different angle on it.
Well, it came originally from Formula One.
Oh, it came from Formula One.
Get the suspension down low enough to work on the car,
I got it. Okay.
and then just modified.
Yeah.
They work on the motorcycle.
Wow. Okay.
All the linkage and all that's on the cars.
Okay, so then you had that 14-race dry spell before you win in May of '79 at Southwick. And that had to hurt as well. In other words, you go another bunch of races and then you finally win. Do you recall that race, May of '79, Southwick?
Kinda.
Okay, all right. All right, then we go to November of '79, just 3 months later. You win the Anaheim Supercross. You get your first Supercross win and it's on a Suzuki. How'd that feel?
Great.
Do you have that one here?
Yeah.
It's up there somewhere? That's awesome. I took photos for everybody, so hopefully we'll be able to see which one that is. So the entire '79 season was a war with Hannah.
Yeah, that's when I finally figured out that I need to train.
Right.
Because I just would ride the bike in the middle of the week.
Ride the bike. Yep.
And once I started training, I started catching him. Finally, I got to where I could stay in front of him.
Yep. You'd had enough of that.
Yeah.
And he was a little brash.
Very.
Very. All right, so in the '79 season's war with Hannah, it was a 10-race series. You did 9 top threes and 2 wins. 9 top threes and 2 wins, right. So out of the 10 races, you were top 3 9 times with 2 wins. And Hannah wins the series by 46 points. What was happening in the pits? What was everybody saying now that you and Hannah were like the two guys? You guys were running away with the deal. Nobody was competitive against you two. What was happening? What was happening to Kent?
Well, Hannah and I were pretty good friends when we first started racing.
Right.
And what happens is you start winning and you start creating problems with people.
All right. Absolutely.
He's got his fans. I've got my fans. Just everything starts to kind of get questionable. And, it's just down to beating him.
Yeah.
So that's what, he got my head straight.
It could have been just you and him on the line, right? And everybody else just parking.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember people in the race.
So
It gets to the point where they're just like dominoes. You're just riding right by them. They don't have a name or face or anything.
right. Just get out of the way.
They got their business to do, and you'll do it.
Now this is '79. Are you still testing the full floater suspension in secret, or?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Now, what was the better bike at that year in '79? You, and was the Yamaha better than your Suzuki, or?
It's hard to say.
Right.
Until you ride them all next to each other.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And some of them all had some advantage in one place or another. Like 1 year, my Suzuki was really good everywhere but the forks. Forks were horrible. Couldn't hardly hang on the bike.
Wow. Okay. Okay, in August of that year, during that 10 race series, in August of that year, Hannah breaks his leg. He was the champ that year.
Yeah.
He breaks his leg. What did you think when you heard that he had broken his leg?
Well, they're going to say when I race and win that Hannah should have done it.
You got to be in it to win it.
Couldn't try and do the same thing again.
Yeah. Yep. All right, so he's out, and then the 80 season shows up. And 1980 season, you started strong. You had 13 top threes with 8 wins in both Supercross and Motocross that year. And you won the 250cc Motocross Championship. You finished second in the Supercross Championship to Mike Bell by just not many points.
Yeah.
Were you testing the full floater then as well? Because now it's getting to be time.
I can't remember when all those transitions happened.
All right. And was Suzuki happy with your performance?
Yeah.
I can imagine. And did you get paid? When you flipped that contract, did you get paid?
I think it was 90,000 then.
How much?
90,000.
90?
Yeah.
Big money.
Well, compared to Husky.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what was the conversation at contract renewal? Were you telling them, hey, your forks suck and this has got to be fixed?
It's kind of interesting because Tosh was the guy I had to negotiate with. So I walk in there and I tell him, I want this. And Tosh coughed and just about had a heart attack. So he comes back about an hour later. We're still waiting in there. And I can't remember if he agreed to it then or later. But they struggled to pay that. They really didn't want to pay it. Then Mark Barnett comes in the next year later and signs for 4 or 5 times that much.
Yeah,
That's kind of disappointing.
a little bit. Yeah, can imagine. Yes. Contract renewal conversations. All right, let's go. Now, so you're champ.
Good.
Okay, so 80 season, wonderful for you.
Yeah.
You made a bunch of money.
Mhm.
You negotiated. You're in contract happiness. You're the champ. And 81 season's starting to come around the corner. And in 81, you're going to ride the full floater, full time, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it was a very good year for you, obviously, in 81. It was an 8-race 250 series. You win 5 of them. And you got 3 seconds, excuse me. So 5 wins, 3 seconds. So you were either first and second in every race.
Yeah.
That was domination.
Yeah, well, when I went to the line, I knew I was going to win.
They went to, I didn't,
When I go to the starting line,
yeah?
I had enough confidence I knew I was going to win.
Oh, gotcha.
I
I
was so
guess.
strong. Coming up to the moto and my mechanics there, I just talked to him about the bike, how it worked and stuff.
Yeah.
Wasn't even out of breath.
Yeah, now, was the Suzuki better than everything else out there, or were you just riding better?
Well, I got to remember, Honda had a lot of trick stuff too. Yamaha, I've always liked Yamahas, but I don't know, they might not have been as good. But I don't know, I didn't ride one.
Because that was a fabulous bike.
Kawasaki, I always thought was a little bit behind.
Now, you went third in Supercross in the 81 season. Again, as we talked earlier, behind Mike Bell. And the Supercross winner was Barnett that year.
Yeah.
So they had first and third in Supercross. They had the 250 outdoor. Barnett was on a 125. I believe he won the outdoor 125. So Suzuki was crushing it in 81.
Oh, yeah. We dominated.
Now, were they happy?
Very.
Were they paying?
Not as much as they should have.
What they should have. Oh, boy. Now, were you in negotiations with Suzuki in that year?
In 79,
81.
81, yeah, I think so.
Do you remember if you had a good contract in 81?
I think in 81, didn't I? I didn't I get hurt then? I can't remember what year my wrist got broke. And then I had to start in 500s.
Oh, yeah.
Your
No.
hands under my comfort.
What?
Your hands under my.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
I broke the scaphoid. That bone doesn't heal very good. So I wasn't sure I was going to be able to race. And then we missed the 250, so we had to ride the 500. And I think that's the year that Schultz ran into my leg, not John Schultz, but Hicks ran into my leg and broke it in Atlanta. So riding the 500s, and I think that's when I broke my leg.
Because that 581 was air cooled, and
Is that when Schultz won? When did Schultz win?
what's that again?
Daryl Schultz. When did he win?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Don't know it. It's you're probably right about that.
That's when I broke my
Yeah,
Hicks broke my leg.
because he won it 1 year and he was pretty much almost
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Almost done. Okay, so when did you see your first water cooled Suzuki 250? Because that was stuff starting to come around
I
in
think that had to be around 81.
81.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you didn't get to race one of those until 82 or maybe late 81.
I think. I raced the full floater halfway through one of the championships.
Right. The 81 championship.
Right after I raced Hangtown, the High Point, and then finished it down on the full floater. That's probably 80,
Okay. Okay.
I think. It's somewhere on that wall.
It's up there somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, that was and that 81 season is when Hannah came back, right?
I think so.
Yeah, and that led to the infamous Saddleback race that you guys had. And you and I had talked since about this very subject, and that I had spent an evening and an afternoon with Hannah at the Houston Supercross. And that evening, that Friday night before the Supercross, we sat and talked about that very subject, what was going on between Hugh and Kent. And his attitude was, we didn't have a problem. The media made it a problem. And he said, and we just kind of catered to the media. And it was Jim Giantassis.
Giantassis?
Yeah. He was kind of heading up that massacre and this and that and the hatred and all that bullshit. And
Well, it's good sales.
exactly. And Hannah did admit, and he said, no, I never had a problem. He said, but it was just good for the sport.
Yeah.
And he said, I always enjoyed riding with Bob, and I mean with Kent. And so he's like, but the media loved it. The media loved it, and everyone loves to talk about. In that particular race, that was up until recently. That race at Saddleback, the second moto, right? Was that when he knocked you down?
No, I think it's first one.
Because they call that, the Saddleback race was called one of the greatest comebacks of all time. Because that's right. He knocked you down, you cut your arm on his chain, you had to get it patched up.
I had the flu that day too.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
They say they patched you up, you went back out there, and you absolutely crushed them.
That's it. Drained all my energy.
Yeah. All right, so let's go into the...
He won the second moto.
Yeah. Well, I thought you won the second moto. Because he won the first one.
I can't remember now.
Yeah, he won the first one because he knocked you down.
I thought I came back up and passed him. And then he won the second moto.
You got me on that one. I should have done better research. But you're the guy, so I'll take your word for it.
It's after the good double jump.
But that was, the Magoo double, yeah. And it was that left turn at the top.
Yeah, I just didn't think he was going to do that.
That looks like a hellacious launch.
Well, I didn't fall.
I didn't fall, but he sure rammed me.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the 82 season. Another injury-plagued season. You were 14th overall in Supercross. You were 15th overall in the 500cc MX. And it didn't even show you being in the top 10 in the 250s. You just had a miserable year. What was going on in 82?
I was just about ready to quit.
You were ready to quit.
Yeah.
What was causing that?
Just tired.
Tired.
Getting hurt.
Yep.
Tired of the stress.
Yeah.
I remember, and I just didn't enjoy it as much. I remember sitting in Washougal in the launch. It was a real nice day. Sitting in the sunshine. I go, I really don't want to be here. Just anywhere. I just don't want to be here. I was racing, and there's some guy was in front of me, and I said, I can pass this guy anytime I want. I really don't care. So I knew it was time to quit.
Yeah. And the burnout's a big thing. It said you raced 5 times that year, but you did win Southwick. So hence the fact that you went 14th, 15th out of the top 10 was the fact that you only raced 5 times that year. But you did win Southwick. And so that had to be a little bit of easing of the pain.
Yeah.
And how were the big Suzukis in the 500 class?
They're nice.
Because they were so air cooled back then.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were air cooled. How were the 250 water coolers back then?
They're good.
Yeah, that 82 RM 250 R. Oof.
I think the 82 is when they changed the air cleaner location. You put it underneath the gas tank.
Oh, the one they did that for made Barnett ride the whole season on it or something.
Well, I remember we tested, and the bike felt slow. We had that big meeting at Suzuki to ask all the riders what they thought about the bike, because the lap times were bad, and all the riders couldn't really come up with a reason. And I got to me and I said, I told you they were too slow, and you wouldn't listen to me. You wouldn't listen to me because my lap times were slow, because my wrist had been broke. But it doesn't take a genius to figure out if something works or doesn't work.
Right.
So that's just one of the bad times.
Now, how was it being on the team when you got the young kid like Barnett coming through, and he's training like a madman?
Well, I enjoyed having Mark around. He's good. I see, I always liked having another rider to ride with. A lot of riders are afraid to have another rider practice with them because they think they're going to get better and beat them. I'd rather have to be faster. Have one guy could beat me than 40.
Right.
So I'd get the company to send riders down to my house. We'd go ride Jeff Ward's down there. We'd go ride the sand track. Billy Lyles was there. Mark Barnett stayed there practically. So they'd help me and help them. But
Now, in that particular year in '82, Honda won everything. They won everything. And had you ever had an opportunity to ride one, sit on? You did?
I really did any dunes.
You rode a Honda while you were contracted to Suzuki.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, Roger was there. I told him I didn't like the rear suspension. He says, well, whatever you want, we can fix it. And I wasn't sure about that. But the bike had some power. And I liked certain things about it. And so when I went to Suzuki, I said, we'll go testing every year. I said, I want one of these, and one of these, and one of these. I want to get there. So they had a short stroke, long stroke motor, and a bunch of different things on the suspension. Told them places to change on the body. So I get there, and they want to take me over and show me the bike. It's late. I said, okay. We go over and look. Everything I asked for is done.
They did it.
Yeah, there's one thing on the plastic or something. It would take a little time to do, but they had that done too when I came over there. So somebody spent a lot of time at night working on the thing.
Wow. Okay.
But the bike was good. That's when we won everything that year.
Now, in '82, were you were coming up on contract renewal?
I don't think I even asked for that. Well, let's see what happened. That was when part of my contract was that I could take and ask for negotiate for more money in 2 years. It was a 2-year contract. So I didn't want to ride for Suzuki anymore. That's when the company was just kind of crumbling.
Hmm.
When you walk through the building and every other light's on, you know something's wrong. So I started talking to Kawasaki and talking to Roy Turner. And basically, we went out to Indian Dunes and rode that bike. And he said that, well, I came out really excited. What do you think about it? I said, well, what exactly will I let me change on it? And he got kind of a depressed look. And he said, well, I guess I'll let you change anything you want. I said, good, let's go back to the shop and see what you got laying around there. So that's when we came up with a different frame. I liked the geometry of it. So we started taking all the new stuff and putting on it. It was an air-cooled bike. And it worked pretty good. We kept working on it for a while, rode some CMC races. And then they took the bike to Japan and built the new test bike after that. That's when it had the pickle. Look at all of it. The orange seat, green tank.
Yeah.
But the bike was quite a bit improved. The next year, the bike was much better.
Wow.
But
How did you feel as a rider at that moment, 80, 81, 82, that you were, and because of your GP wins, your Superbiker wins, all of that stuff that was going on, you obviously displayed a talent for, if it had wheels and a motor, at that time in life and in history, you were the fastest guy on the planet. How did that make you feel, knowing that, hey, right now on this earth, I'm the fastest SOB on a dirt bike? How did that make you feel?
Well, it's kind of nice, but it doesn't change you.
It didn't?
No. This is a party that's not real. I mean, it's a temporary thing. So it gives you confidence,
Yeah.
but it's not something you want to brag about.
But you could sit there at that starting line, walking, picking your starting spot, and know that everybody's looking at you, knowing you're the guy.
Well, you gotta look at different ways. There's a lot of people there that really want to see you, and that's what you want to really give them the show that they want.
Yeah.
Do things like I went a race and come out on that last lap, just slapping people's hands along the fence,
Got
and
it.
they get such a kick out of it. Makes you feel good.
Yeah. Now, in November of 82, San Diego Supercross was your last race on the Suzuki. San Diego, November of 82.
Was it on Suzuki or Kawasaki?
Suzuki. That was your last race on a Suzuki. The results show you riding a Suzuki at that race. I don't know how you finished. I didn't check that. But your contract came to an end, obviously.
Well, I asked for more money, and they said no. I knew it was going to go to Kawasaki.
Right, because I know apparently you had been talking.
What I didn't expect was when I had said I wanted to change and didn't accept their offer, they cut the contract right then. There was 3 months left on my contract. So I went to Kawasaki. I said, the good news is I can start working now. And they said, okay, we'll see what we can do. And they came up with a number, a bunch of extra things like generators, bikes, four-wheelers. And I took it. Because I just wanted to ride for somebody that could appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah.
And like a Husky got to a point where they just didn't give you support. And it didn't have to be just bike, just mental support. Showing that they care. And Suzuki got to that point where they just don't lose confidence in you. They just don't care about you.
Now, do you remember when you signed with Kawasaki, what the contract was for?
It's $30,000 less than the Suzuki contract.
30 grand.
Yeah.
You just wanted something to ride that was going to be.
Well, when I went to Kawasaki, they really wanted the help, and it's just a nice feeling.
Yeah.
Here I'm working for somebody that wants to know what I have, what I feel, what I want. So it's fun helping them. They're all good people.
Now, when did you start talking to them seriously about contracts? Do you remember? Was it mid 82?
Well, it's, like I said, it's towards the end of the year. Because up until that point, we were just kind of talking about it.
Right. Okay. And was Europe ever an option after you left Suzuki?
Do what?
Europe? Was that ever an option?
I was going to go to Europe.
You were going to go?
Yeah, they already planned it. That's when the wrist was broken.
Oh, and which brand? Were you going to ride a Suzuki over in Europe?
Yeah,
With Team Suzuki over in Europe?
yeah,
And you broke your wrist, so that killed that.
yeah.
Was that going to be big money?
I don't remember. I
Okay.
don't think so.
That had the Gabors and all the brothers, everybody was on that Suzuki team.
Well, that was kind of the thing to do. I mean, to really challenge yourself. Because GPs were the number one thing.
Yeah,
World Championship.
yeah. Well, you showed that the 2 times they came here, where you put the shits to them.
So,
All right. Wow.
George Obey, it's a good rider.
Oh.
To beat him, it's saying something.
83 season, you were Kawasaki mounted, and you go second in the 500cc class overall behind Glover. You were not in the top 10 in the 250 class, and you were 18th in the Supercross class. So you were starting to figure out that unitrack. Was the unitrack that much different than the full floater, or were they very similar in just minor details to work through?
Out of all these linkages and stuff, you can make, 32 different ones on this bike, and you can kind of make it wherever you want.
Right.
You can make one that feels different, or a different setup feel just like the other one. Just a matter of tweaking it.
Right. Now they have better forks?
Well, that's getting back to how much testing you do and what works and what doesn't work. But we're kind of at a point where when it was the Kawasaki we were testing and got the bikes working really good. And Roy Turner came up to me and says, "Aren't you happy now that we got the bikes working so good?" I said, "Well, I'm happy for one reason. It is a little better, but I'm disappointed because I can't figure out how to make it better." I said, "I know it's going to be better, but what do I got to do to figure it out?"
Yeah. Now, when did you first started to? I know disc brakes were starting to come on then.
I didn't use disc brakes till I wrote for Kawasaki.
Yeah, because Kawasaki, there was a number of them that still weren't using discs, and it showed. I think Goat Breaker was one of the few that had the disc brakes, and it was all kind of experimental. But do you recall when yours came with the disc brake and they tried it, they brought it and showed it to you, and what did you think? So when you first, your mechanic, Mick McAndrews or whoever it was at that time, shows up a test track and it's got a front brake and it's a disc brake. What'd you think? You were telling me that.
Well, I liked it because it's powerful.
Yeah.
In the water, it worked good too.
Did you notice a weight difference?
Not so much.
Not too much. And were you all in from the beginning?
Yeah, it's psychological more than anything.
Sure. Now they didn't have rear disc on the Kawasaki for a little while. They waited, where some of them were experimenting with rear discs as well. But you had a pretty robust front-looking disc on the Kawasaki's at that time.
That's where most of your stopping comes from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Weight transfer, you don't have any weight on the back end.
Absolutely. So, so for the '83 season, you went second in the 500 behind Glover. You were top 10 in the 250 and 18th in the Supercross. The first race on the Kawasaki, you got a 5th at Anaheim Supercross. Your first race on the Kawasaki factory bike, you were 5th at Anaheim, which is the opener typically. Yeah. So, how did that feel?
Well,
and that was the 26 bike, right?
I can't remember.
Okay. But you show up, brand new bike, brand new giz, everything's new, and you're out there running with it.
Well, I didn't really feel like I was running that good because I was used to being on the Suzuki.
Right. And were they different?
Oh yeah.
Totally different?
Pretty much.
In what ways?
Just the way it felt. I mean, it's hard to explain.
Got it.
It felt like the Suzuki, if you put it in feeling terms, it felt like the Suzuki was lighter, more responsive.
So you had a good year that year, and you had to have a little bit of an emotional high when you won Gatorback in April.
I think Brock was surprised too.
Was he really?
Yeah. That bike had a lot of power.
Yeah.
I mean, I could haul ass down the straightaway.
And you probably don't know is I went every Gatorback up until about '88. Every Gatorback. Yeah, because I knew Bill and Jerry West real well. And most of the time we didn't even have to pay. But I was there. We were definitely there that year.
It's a fun track.
Huh?
It's a fun track.
Oh, yeah. I got 1,000 laps on that place. 1,000 laps. But the '84 season, another one. Tough one. No points in the 500, 7th in the 250, and you go 11th in the Supercross. And it's like, wow.
That's when retirement was coming up.
Yeah, my contract's over. So when, you knew it was happening, when did the Kawasaki contract end?
84.
84? Wow.
Turner came up to me and said, "What do you want to do?" He said, "If you want to ride it, I'll get you a contract." I said, "No, I'm going to quit."
You're ready to go?
Yeah.
Wow. Did you have any other offers?
No.
None?
No.
Nothing from Europe? There was nowhere to go? You were done?
I might have had some, but I just didn't want to ride.
Yeah. I guess all the agents and the managers knew you were done.
Yeah. That's when I had part interest in VP Racing Fuels.
Right.
So I did that for a while and then sold my interest.
Right.
And then I was thinking about doing stunt work with Stan Barrett. But that was kind of weird. I just didn't really understand it that well.
It is a little weird. Stunt work. Yeah. You do stunt work when you get paid for it, right?
Yeah.
You did one race in '85. You did the 500cc class in Vegas on the Kawasaki, and you got 4th.
Yeah.
One race. And you show up.
They asked me if I wanted to ride it so they keep their points, their manufacturer points.
Right.
I said, sure.
And it was on an SR?
No, I can't remember. It
It,
was a full works bike.
it could have been because 85, I think, was the end of the works era.
It might be.
Yeah, it could have been a works bike. And
I was going to ride a works bike. I did ride a works bike at Good Times.
and you run a 500. That thing had to be a hog.
They were actually kind of nice to ride.
Were they?
Yeah.
That,
Kawasaki motors are smooth.
and did they say, hey, you got fourth, you almost made the box. Why don't you come and hang out for a
Well,
little?
they offered me another ride at Mount Morris, but I twisted my knee,
Uh-huh.
so I didn't get the race.
Come out of nowhere after being off and still get up there and bang with them. Incredible. So you did no races in 86. It didn't show you raced anywhere.
Yeah, I think I raced at Gatorback.
In 86?
Yeah. In 87, maybe.
I have that. Yes, you did in 87. But in
production bike.
AMA doesn't show you lining up in any event in 86.
Yeah,
And,
maybe that's true.
but you did 2 races in 87. You did February of 87, you did Gatorback. And you went 13-18 for 15th overall on a 250 Honda.
Yeah, bike I bought.
You bought it?
Yeah. Just stock.
Just show up. Yeah, just like, yuck, yuck, yuck. Throw it in the back of my pickup.
On the starting line, everybody looked over. What are you doing here? I don't know. I turned the wrong turn.
You parked with the private air pits, or you parked in the factory pits?
I think this was Danny Laporte.
You were parked with Danny?
Yeah.
Okay. Now then you came back after February doing 15th overall. You come back in June. Good times. And you go 17-16 on a 500 Kawasaki for 18th overall. With a full gate, full on, everybody is banging for it, and you show up probably in a pickup, and you get 18th overall.
Yeah.
What the hell was going on?
Just have fun.
Just having fun?
Yeah.
All right, your last race. And I got to hear this story. June of 88, good times. San Antonio, you go 13-10 for 11th overall on a CR250. After virtually no races, 11th overall on a 250 Honda. How did that feel?
Good.
That had to feel good. What were you thinking? Just goofing
Have
around?
fun, yeah.
And how far was Good Times from here, where you live?
Where I live down south is about 30 minutes away.
30 minutes away. Did you decide at the last minute?
I don't know.
Just said, what the hell? Let me
We
go.
were pretty much last minute.
Team last minute.
Well, like, just one of my best friends. We'd go hare scrambles racing all the time.
Yeah.
So we just, out of the blue, just decided to go. Put new tires on the bike, put oil in and gas in it, and go to racing. Usually won.
Come on, Lisa, we're going racing.
No, it's just Sam and I.
Oh, Sam.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Wow. 11th overall on a 250 in the Nationals, and you're just goofing around. That's got to be incredible. Got to be incredible. All right, these are some fired questions. How did the vintage thing? How did you start coming and goofing around and racing the vintage? How did that start?
I think these crazy guys from Houston came down.
Well, I mean, who knocked on your door and said, "Hey"?
You,
Not me.
Rick.
It was. Was it Don Rainey?
Well, Don's always tried to get me to come race.
It was probably Don Rainey.
But you guys brought the bike down for me to
We
try.
did. We brought 3 bikes,
250 and
360 and a 400,
Yeah.
all in the same chassis, and said pick, and you picked the 360
yeah.
because obviously, you know, you're a monster.
That's a good sized motor.
It's a great bike.
When I was riding for Kawasaki, they had that water cooled 500, and it's so nice and so smooth. And it's when you get that much motion turning around, it gets like a gyro effect. It's hard to move the bike. We were at the meeting talking about things to do to the bike, and I said, "I'm at 500 motor." I said, "Now you got it working so nice and smooth. Why don't you go ahead and build a smaller motor now?
Yeah.
Use the same technology." And they go, "Why? We got the best one." I said, "But yeah, you can make it better."
Yeah. Yep. Who was your most feared competitor?
I didn't really fear anybody.
Did you? I mean, so I'm saying you had no feared competitors. You weren't afraid of anybody.
No,
Gotcha. I mean, if you lined up against Roger, you didn't care.
no.
Cool. Who was your most liked competitor?
I had a bunch of guys I liked.
Who was your number one? The guy you could call up today and have a conversation.
The guy that wanted to emulate was Roger.
Roger
Yeah, the coster.
was your most liked competitor.
Well, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I liked his style.
Yeah.
I liked the way he treated people in the pits, and just a good guy.
Absolutely. Who was your most hated competitor?
Probably Jeff Hicks.
Jeff Hicks?
Yeah, because he broke my leg.
Okay.
He's
And it was Bob's buddy?
Yeah.
What was that?
Wow. Okay.
It was just such an obvious deal. They're in Atlanta. Big off-camera turn is a berm about 20 feet down the hill. I'm on the inside getting ready to pass. He just grabs a handful of throttle and goes straight into me.
Wow.
How do you do that?
Wow. Best friend in the game. Somebody you'd put in the pickup truck with you to go to the races.
That's a hard one because there's a bunch of guys.
Got to pick one.
Maybe Daniel Laporte.
Gotcha. Okay. The best bike you ever raced? Ever? Any brand?
My 81 Suzuki.
81.
Yeah.
Okay. Your best win? Your best favorite win ever?
Probably Hangtown.
Hangtown?
75.
Okay. Okay. The best series overall win? Which series made you feel the
76.
best?
76.
76.
500.
What was the best modification you ever experienced when a mechanic came in and said, I did this, changed this, built this, added this? What was the best modification you ever experienced? You went, that is unbelievable. Any idea?
No, because most of the things came in small increments.
Okay. Okay.
So they all kind of blend together.
Okay. Got it. And in your opinion, who's the most talented rider on the planet? Ever?
I think Marty Tripes.
Good answer. Yeah. Great answer.
We were at Lexington, Ohio. I think I finished 11th and he finished in front of me one place. Because we get back to the pits and we're talking about it, and I said, Marty, why are you even worried about what you're doing? I said, all you gotta do is think about to win, and it's like turning on a light switch, you can go win it. So he goes, really? I said, yes. So we come back to second moto. I said, how'd you do? Oh, I won. I mean, who can do that?
Marty Tripes. Yep. It was, and we had great conversations with Marty at the Rio races and stuff like that. What a wonderful guy.
Watching him ride at that first Supercross at Coliseum, feet up,
Yeah.
and just effortless.
Yep. Head over the bars, just going for it.
Yeah.
Wow. How about the most talented rider currently?
Can't remember his name now. Who's number one?
Jet Lawrence?
Yeah.
Jet Lawrence on the Honda?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's a good example of how I was talking about training with somebody. He's got his brother to train with, somebody he can trust,
Yeah, somebody you can trust.
somebody
Yeah.
that can compare things with. And then it just makes you go much better.
Cool.
It's hard to motivate yourself by yourself.
Yeah. That's why it's so strange with Ricky Carmichael, trained by himself his
Yeah.
whole life. With his mother out there giving
Yeah.
him shit.
Well, it shows you how much desire he had.
Yeah. Now, some of the conversations we hear a lot now about the riders today versus the riders in yesterday. And they say, oh, the riders of today are so much better. Oh, this and oh, that. The guys back then couldn't do what they do today. What do you think? Do you believe that if you were 20 years old, Kent Howerton, 20-year-old Kent Howerton, on that 450 Honda that Jet's riding, do you feel like there would be no difference in riders of yesterday or today, given the technique they would learn and the bikes being so much better?
I think that a champion, no matter what the ride, what year it is, you're always going to have that group of people in the same place. The old bikes were harder to ride because the power bands weren't as smooth.
Yeah.
They weren't as consistent. The bikes, you basically had to know how to keep them together. Couldn't ride them as hard as you want. Bikes today handle so much better power. They're reliable. They're consistent. I mean, everybody's going to ride the same bike. So, yeah, old bikes are harder to ride. It's the same rider skill, though. You've got to compensate for the bad things, take advantage of the good things.
Got it. Interesting. Last question. What's the one thing you wish you could have a shot at doing over again?
Training.
Training.
I was way undertrained.
Now,
That's the big difference today with the riders. They've got so much information available and trainers that can work with them. That's why they're in such good shape. That's why they're strong enough to ride these new bikes. Take the falls.
yep. And they're going so fast and they're still getting hurt.
Yeah. Well, no matter how good you make something, it's going to be pushed to the limit. Just like these bicycles. You got the ones you pedal and no power. You got the one with power. Well, they think it's cheating. Well, you're just going to go that much faster. Push it to that one to the limit.
Yeah.
You're doing the same thing.
Got it. Well, that's all the questions I have, Mr. Howerton. And coming from a fan, it's an absolute honor to be able to sit and visit with you. And you don't know is when I was racing in 75, started in 72, I had one of those because of you. And then in 81, I got one of these because of you. So it was a huge part of my life, you as being the idol that made me want to race. And it was an absolute pleasure visiting with you. And hopefully we'll get to spend many more years together still and go to the Motocross Sky track here one day because we're the same age.
Oh, I know.
And but we appreciate it. Thank you so much for your hospitality.
You're welcome.
Being able to look around here and see the stuff. And thanks so much. Appreciate it very much. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you in the next episode.